Welcome to the first program of the Sustainable Supply Chain series. I'm Valentina Carbone, professor at ESCP Europe of Supply Chain Management and scientific co-director of the ESCP Deloitte Chair on Circular Economy. I will accompany you through this journey exploring possible patterns towards more sustainable supply chains. In every episode, we will tackle a specific question. Today, the first framing question is, what is the right sustainable supply chain for your product and your company? Why did we choose this question? As a matter of fact, we all talk about sustainable supply chain, but when we try to define what we mean by sustainable supply chain, we inevitably come up with very different activities and initiatives. Just to mention a few, we talk about sourcing and responsible supply. We talk about fair relationships with suppliers, good working conditions in plants, but we also talk about CO2 emissions from trucks, energy consumption in buildings, plants, and warehouses. Said shortly, sustainable supply chain has become an umbrella concept, gathering very different types of activities and initiatives. So, if we want that sustainable supply chain become something real, implemented, which generates a positive impact on society and the environment, we need to think and understand unsustainable and sustainable issues according to the very specific context, product, and company. This is why, to address our question, I'm joined today by François-Régis Le Tourneau, Director for Standards and Prospective Corporate Supply Chain at L'Oréal. Please, François-Régis, welcome.
Hello, Valentina.
Hello, François-Régis. Thanks a lot to be with us today to inaugurate our Sustainable Supply Chain series. When I invited you, I asked you to bring a symbol, an artifact, an image, whatever, to symbolize our question today, that is, what is the right sustainable supply chain for your product? What did you bring?
Well, I brought a crystal
Wow.
ball, which is a nice object as such, which has probably been the best friend of many supply chain managers for years, and especially for demand planners, you know. Mm-hmm. It was very often the best tool to guess what will be the future. In fact, it's getting a little bit obsolete for that kind of usage, to my opinion. And much more, now we should consider it as the way or the opportunity to have a different look, a magnified look in the future, in our new world. And more, I would say, the third dimension of this ball is somehow an analogy to the planet, to the topic we want to address today.
Great, so it's about prospection,
it's about
looking forward,
yes,
and taking care of our planet, if I understand properly.
Absolutely.
Thanks a lot. Now, let's move to the core of our emission today. Let's first introduce the cosmetic and beauty care industry to then understand how to make it more sustainable. The socioeconomic contribution of the cosmetic industry in Europe is quite important. The science-driven and highly innovative industry supports millions of European jobs up and down the value chain, with more than 100 manufacturers of ingredients, 23,000 companies involved in the wholesales of cosmetics, and more than 46,000 specialist stores, and even 500,000 hairdressing and beauty salons. Actually, Europe is the global flagship producer of cosmetics products, with France and Germany being the main exporters. Europe is also the largest market, followed by the US, China, and Japan. This is the bright side of the industry, along with the fact that it contributes to our well-being and feeling good. What about the dark side, the unsustainable part? Which are the main downsides for the environment and for people? First of all, cosmetics have a huge effect on the environment, not only on our skin. More than 120 billion units of packaging are produced every year by the global cosmetics industry, much of which is not recyclable. As per the product itself and its ingredients, cosmetic products contain small particles of plastics, known as microbeads. We find them in scrubs, toothpaste, beauty products, and they are causing devastating marine pollutions. Moreover, some toxic ingredients or dangerous chemicals can be also found in beauty care products. But in Europe, we are less exposed to such risks. About 1,300 ingredients have been banned in Europe and only 11 in the US. What about the social impact? NGOs have pointed to the industry and have pushed beauty companies to source child labor-free mica, the little mineral giving sparkle and sheen to cosmetics, mainly sourced in a poor Indian region. Up to 20,000 children are estimated to work in the mines, around 90% of which are illegal, according to a recent report by two NGOs, Terre des Hommes and SOMO. All in all, the cosmetic industry faces several challenges in each of the different steps of the product life cycle and across its global supply chain. What is being done by the main companies? Which are the main initiatives meant to move towards a more sustainable production and consumption model for this well-being industry? What will make the future brighter? Let's now dive into sustainability at L'Oréal. François-Régis, what does sustainability mean at L'Oréal?
Sustainability at L'Oréal is a profound transformation that helps very much to adapt to the changes we see in our world. It addresses all the departments of the company, and it is a priority for all our teams.
Great, so it's a journey and it is embedded in the overall strategies and across all departments, if I understand properly.
Yes.
I heard that, can you tell me a little bit more about the program Sharing Beauty with All, which was launched in 2013 at L'Oréal?
Yes, we have set a series of tangible objectives towards 2020, and these tangible objectives for the company are organized around four major pillars. The first one is about innovating sustainably. The second one is about producing sustainably. The third one is about living sustainably. And the fourth one is about sharing. Sharing with our employees, sharing with the communities around where we work and we operate, and sharing also with our suppliers. We have set a series of very tangible objectives. The first one of the first about which I would like to speak is about our ambition to reduce our carbon emissions in our own production. We set an objective for 2020 compared to 2005 of a reduction of minus 60% of our emissions.
How are you on this journey?
And we are already at minus 73% of carbon emissions in our own production. The second point I would like to stress also is our ambition to reduce our water consumption. And we are very happy to announce that our plant in Spain, in Burgos, was already set as a dry factory in 2017.
Okay. Can you give me a few examples connected to the video we just saw together? What about packaging? What are you doing about packaging? Although it is not part of your scope in supply chain, but we saw that it is a critical issue in the cosmetic industry.
Yes. In fact, our colleagues from Cap Packaging, and I can speak about what we achieved already in terms of packaging. In terms of packaging, our colleagues achieved a fantastic tool, created a fantastic tool which is named SPOT, for Sustainable Product Optimization Tool, which is a scientific manner to measure the environmental impact of a product and the social contribution of a product. And in fact, we do analyze and measure every launch, every new product we bring on the market through this SPOT assessment tool. And last year, 73% of the products we brought on the market were bringing a better environmental and social performance as the previous one that it replaced.
Okay, so you're in a continuous improvement approach in this field to improve the situation. And let's go back to the specific priority of sustainable supply chain, of which you are in charge of. Can you tell us a little bit about the priorities you're following?
Yes, we have two major objectives in supply chain I would like to address. The one is about the reduction of carbon emissions in transportation, which is really a great ambition and which is absolutely a priority in terms of supply chain today. And the second one is a very nice one, is the development of our solidarity sourcing program into the supply chain. You know, the supply chain is a labor-intensive activity, so it's really where we can give access to employment to populations that did not have or that do not have this access. Going back to carbon emissions, we have very strong objectives towards 2020 of a reduction of minus 20% in comparison to 2011. And also, we have published this year an objective for 2050 of a reduction of minus 50% in intensity and minus 20% of our emissions in absolute value.
How do you judge your own achievement?
Our achievements as of today concerning this are quite right on track, because we are already at minus 18% as of end of 2017 in terms of CO2. And we have also launched a worldwide program of decarbonization of our flows, of the flows of our finished goods and POS material. And very specifically also a major priority on urban logistics, with the consciousness of not only the emissions in terms of carbon emissions, but also of public health in our cities. We know that we have really a race, a competition with time in order to reduce the emissions where people live today for roughly 80% of the worldwide population.
Thanks. Let's make a step backwards. How does your company select its priorities? How do you decide that urban logistics is, for example, your priority today?
Yes, always, for all the targets, all the tangible results we want to achieve in terms of sustainability, we aim for impact. We always measure our activity and organize our activity in terms of reduction of impact, which has to be really tangible and very practical. And in fact, it is also recognized by the community. We were ranked #1 out of the top 500 from Newsweek last year. So Newsweek ranked us the most sustainable company ever. Out of 500, and it's not a program for which you volunteer, but it's really Newsweek performing the analysis. And the second recognition we are extremely proud about, it's about the Carbon Disclosure Project, who rated us AAA company, and there are only 2 companies in the world rated AAA for deforestation, for water consumption and climate.
Okay. My question now is more for you, your personal job. How do you split your daily work between setting objectives, monitoring people, convincing people? Can you give us a flavor of it?
You know, in a major project, in a transformation project, you have different phases. And the first one, of course, is about knowing what you want to do, defining the objectives, and usually it's quite easy. In fact, what we experienced as we started in sustainability in supply chain, and especially for carbon reduction in transportation and urban logistics, it took us a few months, really, to go around the world to gather all the ecosystem of transportation, and especially the transportation company, and to make them aware about the fact that the market is moving, that we, the industrial company, are moving and wanting really to reduce our emissions and to go into a collaborative action on that.
So you spend time convincing people, right?
We spend time listening to people, listening to what is possible, where we have to convince, where we have to move the most. And of course, once we have defined that, now I would say it's most of the time it's really convincing the whole ecosystem and onboarding everybody on that project. And let's say today I would also very much like to give a call for action to anybody who wants to join us, really to convince and to go along that path with the whole ecosystems. Not only the industrial companies, but also the transportation companies and also the constructors.
Great.
The whole ecosystem has to be on board.
This call for action lets me think about two final questions for you, using this crystal ball maybe. Which is the worst nightmare for a sustainable supply chain manager like you? And then, which is the best dream you may have for the future of L'Oréal in terms of sustainability?
In fact, I think you're right. We have to think positively about that. I'm totally convinced that we have also already today the stakes to do well, to better the situation. The worst nightmare, to go back on the negative side, to my opinion, are self-made by most of the organizations. And the worst nightmare is about safety of people, safety of your employees, safety of the population, safety of your consumers. That's the first thing, really, that any supply chain manager has to take into account. The second point, in fact, for a supply chain manager, is to lose contact with his environment, his suppliers, his ecosystem, but first of all, with the consumers and the customers. A supply chain manager who knows what are the expectations, what are the needs of its consumers and its customers, he knows the way, he knows the path, not only for the business as such, to be an excellent supply chain manager, but to know also the sustainable future of a supply chain.
So what is the sustainable future for L'Oréal in the next 10 days?
Looking a little bit in the ball, into this crystal ball, I would say the future of supply chain for me, if I have a dream, is a fully committed L'Oréal organization in a few years from now, completely committed, and also a complete decarbonized urban logistics.
Thanks a lot. Good luck with all your projects, and let's hope that sharing beauty with all will truly achieve a sustainable supply chain impact and will become an example for all the other actors in the industry. Thanks.
Thank you, Valentina.